Sasquatch, Yahoo, Phantom of the Forest, you Spear Finger, Fire Dragon, Ohio Grassman, Silver Giant, Bloodless Hollow, West Virginia Vampire, Coyote King, Hogzilla, Devil Dog, Coyote Killer. Cave creature, Mothman, Smoke Wolf, Lizard Demon, Ashman, Grafton Monster, Cow-killing bastard, Shadow creature, Dustman, Cherokee, Death Cat, Wild Man, Great Fire Rape. What else do I have to say? Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feats. Snarly Gastro Team, Red Island Bear Beast, Silver Giant, Squalling Savage, Black Wolf was kind of average, Stone Giant, Raven Mocker, Midnight Whistler, Wampus Beast, Wawa Woman, Ohio Grassman again. Technically Huckleberry Wolfman or Wolf County, need to find the X again if we hunt the Lightning Man. Welch's Werewolf, Daily Howl, Kentucky Hellhound, Little Girl, Headless Horror, I can't take it anymore. Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feet.
Welcome to Big Feats, America's premier Sasquatch and Wendigo battle podcast. We normally watch episodes of The Deranged and the Deranged TV show Mountain Monsters, a reality adventure where a group of men find Bigfoot instantly every week and then get completely humiliated by it. We're brought to you by 1-900hotdog.com, the final website. Go to patreon.com/1900hotdog to support the show. Patrons get daily articles by an all-star cast of comedy writers, Discord movie events, and immunity to Kentucky Whistler. Vital in today's woods. I'm Seanbaby, and I carry socks of various colors to blend in with the wall paint of any surroundings. End of bio.
And I am New York Times bestselling author Jason Pargin. And this is another special episode of Big Feats in that we do not have Robert Brockway, and so are going to watch something other than Mountain Monsters, but are going to watch instead something much, much, much worse. What is this thing that you sent to me for us to watch?
I'm really glad you're confused by it. So we tried the producer's spin-offs, Mountain Monsters with Hunks, Mountain Monsters but Cold. So I tried to find something with that same spirit. And what I came up with was a feature film made by a Christian family about Christian values, kind of, but mostly about Bigfoot. It's 2019's The Badge, the Bible, and Bigfoot, which is, I think, sort of what a Mountain Monsters movie would look like without the personality. It feels like it kind of takes place in the same universe, I guess.
It has many similarities because I think if you are trying to film a Bigfoot battle with zero budget, you are kind of restricted. Like certain tropes are going to emerge just out of necessity. Mm-hmm. But it is shockingly similar in certain ways that we will get to. Now, the context is, those of you who have never gotten extremely desperate in your watching things on the deep streaming networks, the Tubo and Bloopy, the ad-supported ones, there is a layer of like horror films, slasher films, where it is stuff that somebody shot on their phone with their friends, but got distribution. Like it has a distribution company. And the same thing here. This looks like we'll get into it, but it is filmed by this family. Specifically, there's this woman who writes and directs them. She is and stars as the female role in this, and it stars their other members of their family and only the other members of their family, and they shoot this stuff on no budget, and they're all kind of Christian themed films. Her whole deal is like she wants to make clean entertainment because, you know, Hollywood stuff is all filth, but it gets distribution. It has a company that picked it up and distributed it to wherever you see, whatever Christian streaming services this stuff turns up on. It's not just stuff they uploaded to YouTube. They have a YouTube channel, but somebody bought the rights to this and put it into the world. And a lot of people have seen it. And it's shocking because the quality is substantially worse than what any of you listening to this would get if you and your family tried to just make a movie with your phone.
It's below average for a home video project. I looked her up on IMDb. She's directed 51 projects. Her name is Ashley Hayes Wright. This is her second movie. And it sounds like a lot, but there's things on her IMDb called like the Wright Family Bloopers TV series. So I think she's counting her home videos as the 51 projects. So it's, from the director of Christmas Morning Presents 2015 and Kayla's Dance Recital. Sorry, so it's blurry. Anyway, it's the fucking Bigfoot movie of the decade.
Well, but see, that's important because if you have a family who all wants to act in your movies and you want to make some movies that are wholesome family Christian entertainment, then do a movie about Christmas. We're having Christmas and oh no, dad can't afford gifts. So a thing happens and then another thing happens. And in the end, we realize that our love is gift enough. And the love of Christ is what matters. Something that you can shoot in a house with your family.
It's a good pitch.
It's just drama and stuff. Instead, her movie about her and her husband having to punch a Bigfoot to death was like her second idea. This Christian woman who her whole deal is we need our own movies. It's not this woke Hollywood nonsense with the filth and the perversion and the nudity and the cursing. We need clean films. So how about one where me and my husband go into the woods and he punches a Sasquatch to death with his bare hands? That was one of her first ideas. And when you scroll through her 51 credits on IMDb, you get stuff about aliens and you get a haunting and you get a poltergeist house, stuff that they do not have the budget to shoot. And there's such an Ed Wood quality to this where he immediately is like, no, I want a movie about a worldwide alien invasion. And it's like, no, you can keep it small. Like people will throw this up on their TV at Christmas time because they know it's family friendly. You know, you got the family, you got a Christmas tree, a puppy, whatever. People will watch it. It won't matter if it's good. She's like, no, Bigfoot fight.
This movie has a 1.6 rating on IMDb. I didn't even know you could do that. I did not know you could get that low.
It's true because the whole deal with Christian media is there are certain people who won't hold it to any kind of a standard. This was the Christian rock stuff. Speaking of, you're going to get that in this movie, and let's just get into it because this opens on like a montage of somebody driving through like their small town where they filmed this. I think, is it around Portland somewhere? I don't know where exactly it is.
It's somewhere on the coast. I think the county was in West Virginia, but it's obviously not West Virginia because there's an ocean.
And while they're doing it, like a Christian rock song starts playing, and it clearly sounds like friend of the family's Christian rock song. Like they know somebody who records because it's not it's a professionally recorded piece of music, but it just has a feeling of it was made for this movie. And
professionally recorded, like someone charged those idiots $8,000 to use the studio. Like they got preyed upon by a music producer. You could smell that in the music.
But the point I'm making is I got extremely excited because I'm start listening to see, is this song about fighting Bigfoot with the power of Christ? So like I'm listening for like lyrics to see if something kind of rhymes with Bigfoot and they're about to say Bigfoot in the next line. But no, it's just a Christian rock thing about the love about how faith is
one of my biggest letdowns. Because on the DOGGZONE 9000, our other podcast, we do have an expository theme song thing we do where me and Brockway and Zach will all bring movie theme songs about the movie that they're in, which are very funny, very fascinating songs. And I thought, God, if there's one for this movie, I'm fucking winning the next showdown for sure. But no.
Do people realize that used to be the world we were in? Like the movie Ghostbusters did not just have the Ghostbusters theme. It had multiple songs about ghostbusting throughout the film. That used to be a thing. And now I feel like you have to turn to like Indian cinema to get that. Like, I think that's my favorite part of RRR is that every 5 minutes there's a song about ripping guys' heads off. And and about just a song about their friendship, about how they're the best friends in the world. It's like, this is great. Yeah. Why did we stop doing this?
God, it's been like since the 90s, since that was a normal thing. It'd be like Jean-Claude Van Damme would make a movie and they're like, all right, like, we're going to need to have a song about the double impact because of the double impact in this.
Yeah, we need MC Hammer to make a song about the Addams family. And that was just, that was always part of it. That was half the money you made from the movie was selling that single. People would go out and buy it. It's like, I'm in my car bumping the Ghostbusters 2 theme from Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Forgot about Vigo, the Master Evil. Jamie, you're going to have to cut all of this. You're going to have to cut all 8 minutes of my Bobby Brown song. So there's the next scene after they drive through the empty small town is just a bunch of elbows in a diner. Like, you might think I'm kidding, but no, like, it's just meaningless chit chat and forearms because they clearly don't have a shooting permit. They just went to their diner and like set up the camera or their phone probably.
Is that why I could not figure out the artistic choice they were making here? Because they're not like they shoot everything at some odd, weird angle. It's not an artistic thing, but it's literally you're hearing people talk off camera and you just see their hairy forearm. So they just surreptitiously positioned their phone there and started recording, but they didn't get permission from the bar owner, so they just had to record their elbow.
It could have been the plan was to have someone like film them and while they talk, but then someone said, you can't film in here. Or they got too shy and decided, no, we're not going to do that.
But it's weird because there are several scenes like that where they can't show faces. They will cut off the face will be out of frame. And it's not for like a story reason. It's just this person didn't agree to have their face shown in our movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. There's a lot of glamour shots of the town, but it seems like a pretty shitty town. They have like one street that no one's on, and then like the beautiful beach is just a bunch of wood chips and clutter. See a lot of glamour shots of like the algae slopping in.
They spend a lot of time walking along that beach because it's supposed to be like the beauty shot of this is God's creation, shot. And instead it's like a gray ocean. If you've seen the movie Breaking the Waves, it's the Lars von Trier movie, and it takes place in like the desolate shores of Scotland, and there's just this frigid breeze blowing in off the cruel gray ocean, and everyone is miserable and wondering why God has abandoned them. It's that exact same landscape, only here it's clearly supposed to be like their beauty shot or whatever.
You can tell they're like, oh, look at this beautiful beach. We're going to go down and get a great shot. And just, so what we got, the chief of police is meeting with some guy in the woods. His head isn't in frame. So I was like, oh, this must be the same actor. But I looked it up and it's not. It's just some guy they know who like had his hat down so you couldn't see his face. And he's doing a boss hog impersonation. Like, I'm going to get the Duke boss and get and you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? He's trying to explain that they're going to shut down the police.
And it's hard to walk through this movie because it's I don't know where to start because it's so weird. I didn't understand what they were doing there. I didn't get why they're not showing the guy's face. So I went to IMDb, and every credited actor is a member of the family. It's all brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, their kids, all of that, and no one else. As far as I can tell, none of their friends agree to be in this movie. So the first thing they introduce, they do a very brief foreshadowing that there's Bigfoot stuff. They show like a rotten deer carcass in the woods. Yeah. It's not been eaten or anything, but they just found it and filmed it, which is fine, whatever. And like something, they have like a voiceover. It's supposed to be like a radio broadcast. Like, something's been eating the wildlife. Something with very big feet or whatever. And then the next thing is, they're talking about how they're considering disbanding the police department.
Mm-hmm. But which sounds crazy, but they also still have a sheriff's department. So it's like, it's not that abnormal for a town to only have a sheriff's department, I think. There's a scene here that I really liked because they tried to fake a city council meeting with no actors. So it's just like one guy standing in like a classroom and he's like taking questions, and it's voiced over from his wife, the director, trying to do like a fake voice, like, I am a different person. And then they have like some noise that they would play and then turn it on and off. So like murmur, murmur, crowd noise, crowd noise. It's how the dumbest person you've ever known would try to fake a city council meeting with one actor.
Okay, but all right. I feel like we're not explaining this very well. There's a husband and wife.
That's probably true.
The woman is playing the mayor. Name is Claire.
Right.
The guy is playing the chief of police, Harrison. You only ever see these two. So everyone else they interact with is either blurry in the background, it's their elbow, or they run into the sheriff, who's kind of an antagonist character because they're going to disband the police department, which means the chief would lose his job, and the sheriff's department would just handle those calls. But so the sheriff is kind of like an evil, corrupt sheriff, but they don't show his face. He talks with his hat pulled down, and I, like you, thought, oh, it's just that guy again in like a fat suit or whatever, or just like a pillow stuff down there. But no, it's a different guy, credited to a different guy, but he did not want his face shown in the movie. So when the first plot point is they're going to go to the city council meeting to discuss whether or not to disband the police department. And so you see Harrison, the protagonist, he's like a tough guy, a burly tough guy, the chief of police, standing in front of a whiteboard where someone has written city council meeting, like it's a small whiteboard. And you just stand in front of a wall, and then you hear off screen some people saying plot points about how, well, we need to divert that funding to the police department because stuff keeps catching on fire for whatever. Right. And they never cut to show other people. And here's where I got sad, because this means they did not know 5 people that would come be in their movie.
And
people from their church, friends, neighbors. People like to be in stuff. People like to feel famous. You don't need actors. Just 5 people to sit at a table and then have just one person speaking while the other people dressed like in their city, like business clothes, city council clothes, sit there and just look grumpy like, They can do that. People would love to do that. People would love to act and stuff. So what does it mean that even if you watch this person's 50th movie, they still cannot get people to come be in their thing? I am not speculating that these people have alienated everyone in their lives. Maybe it's just a logistical thing. But that was the point where I realized, oh, there's a tragedy here. They can't get some theater students, like a community college adult theater class. Hey, do you want to be in a movie that I've got like distribution lined up for? People will see it. Hundreds of thousands of people will see it. It's a real movie. You just got to sit at a table that's going to be like the city
Danny
council.
Trejo and say, Danny Trejo, I'm making a movie.
So this was where I immediately realized, oh, Sean has not just found a bad, weird movie. He's found one of these things that a madman has made, and no one in their life would even agree to be in it.
Yep. It's madness.
So at this point, another Christian rock song kicks in, correct?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
They do like another montage. And again, I'm listening hard for a line like, oh, I'm on my last watch. But to kill that Sasquatch. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen.
No. This song is so much worse than we could describe. It doesn't quite sound like someone making fun of bad music. It's like they invented an entirely new thing. I don't know how it can exist. It's like someone who doesn't speak English as a first language, like making fun of how Americans sound. And then someone who isn't familiar with Christian music trying to make fun of Christian music. It has like a real mean-spirited satire to it. But
Christian rock is a sensitive subject for me because I grew up with, like, my parents went to a Pentecostal church. I grew up in that ecosystem of all that stuff. So in my teenage years, which I grew up, like, I was a teenager in the 90s. So out in the real world, like, the Seattle grunge scene is happening, like Nirvana has hit the scene. But in the church DC world,
bumping.
Yeah, it's all of this Christian rock stuff. Now, here's the thing. If you are a deeply religious person and you make bad art, the religion is not an excuse, because here's the news. Some of the greatest art ever created is religious themed art. Like, just, you know, the Sistine Chapel, like, there's powerful imagery there.
Sure.
The Statue of David, all of this stuff, like, some of the most amazing. If you care deeply about God and you know you're a mediocre musician, you have a duty to not make that music, in my opinion. Because I do not believe that God forgives you for making that song. I don't think God is saying, no, you did your best. I think he's saying, no, if you're going to make something, I can tell you half-assed this. I'm God. I know you. And what was happening, and I knew it even as a teenager, a lot of very mediocre musicians who could never dream of getting signed to a real label found it much easier to get signed to a Christian label by just taking your existing rock songs and throwing the word God in there or Jesus in there or whatever. And a lot of bands that some of you have heard of rode this rocket to success by just sprinkling in some Christian stuff, and there's a built-in audience who will not judge your music harshly because this stuff has to be graded on a curve. So for example, don't think this movie gets distribution from someone if it doesn't have the Christian element. And the same way, like, whoever this musician is making these truly terrible Christian rock songs that populate the soundtrack, they don't have a career in music or even a hobby in music without that. Well, the chorus is about faith and whatever.
It's the majesty of Christ is really what created this movie. So the director is out on this shitty rocky beach, remembering all the good times she had at the city council meeting earlier.
Yes, she has a flashback to the city council meeting that happened 45 seconds ago in screen time.
Yes.
They go back and walk along the beach and think about stuff. For the script of this movie could not have been 12 pages long. It runs a little over an hour. It's not feature length. They did not have, this should have been 17 minutes of movie at best.
At best. Yeah. Because most of the dialogue could just be cut completely. It's just like, how are things going with you? Oh, I'm fine. Murmur, rhubarb. And it's just like, that's a scene. They'll like cut away. Like, nothing has been advanced.
You get a radio broadcast.
So she's really like, she seems broken up that the guy she kind of knows isn't a cop anymore. And like, that's like the emotional stakes, I guess.
Yeah. And again, these are real life husband and wife, don't have a lot of on-screen chemistry, but whatever. So we get a radio broadcast from this film seems like a 24-hour Bigfoot news radio station, which if it existed, I would have it on right now. Like, don't let me criticize it. If such a thing existed in real life, I would never tune away from it. Every time I got in my car, I would have that on. But every time they would need some exposition. And so like here, I guess ex-Chief Harrison he's like eating a burger in a restaurant, listening to the radio that's playing in the restaurant, talking about like another sighting of Bigfoot in the woods or whatever.
The mayor goes out. She's talking to the boss hog guy. They're like meeting in the woods. I don't know why they don't do a phone call, because they also can't keep the guy in frame. This guy's the guy who's like, I'll be in your movie, but do not show my face. The notes. I tried to make notes of everything that happened. There's some more small talk. They plan a meeting. And then he just sort of sadly eats ribs while he listens to Bigfoot reports.
Yeah, the protagonist of our movie is sitting there just in a restaurant eating a meal, listening to Bigfoot radio while the plot happens elsewhere. And so she asks the sheriff to investigate the Bigfoot stuff, and he refuses which really, I don't feel like that's the sheriff's jurisdiction. I think he's right.
Yeah.
But she like calls Harrison, the protagonist, and is like, I need your help. The sheriff won't investigate the Bigfoot. And then he says he'll come meet her in an hour because he has to finish eating first.
Yes, he's not really doing. He could get it to go, but no, and we show it like him just chewing
there. He listens to more of the radio talking about Bigfoot, and then eventually goes to meet her by the shore side where they meet. Which really, she could have just come to the restaurant and talked to him. It's in the amount of time. Fine. It's like, well, if you're not going to come, I guess I'll just come there. And my food's going to get cold. I'm gonna.
It's so funny. Another funny thing is there's like high effort sometimes. Like when he pays his bill, they have a little insert shot of him putting his money on the table. It's like, what? Why'd you do that? The whole new camera setup? You had to edit that in? Like, why bother with so much of this if like the final product's going to look like such shit? And then they finally meet up, basically the only two people in the movie. And she says, hey, there's a hunter that saw a Bigfoot. And he's like, yeah, I know, you fucking idiot. I was listening to the radio, the Bigfoot radio channel all day, like we all do in this town. She tries to explain that he's the town's only hope. And the line she says is, we all know what you were. And he says, good day, Mayor.
And again, because obviously the film is underpopulated, there's only the two people, but there's no reason in the fiction that they're not approaching a hunter to go look after the Bigfoot, or a tracker, or, the Quint from Jaws character, because he's just a cop. He's a cop and a military vet, but that doesn't mean he's equipped to go find and trap or kill a Bigfoot. Who out there, where would you find like a team of guys to even do? Who would you call in that situation? You would wish there was someone out there
I think what it is she knows she can emotionally manipulate him because he's her husband. And like, she couldn't like get outside of that, in the writing process. And so this character, she's like emotional manipulating him to do it. She's like, because he's like, I don't work for you anymore. I'm not a cop anymore. And she's like, yeah, but like, could you kill the Bigfoot for us anyway? I thought you were a good guy. I thought you were a stand-up guy. Guess I was wrong. Guess you're going to let everyone die for Bigfoot.
And he does not say that even if I was the chief of police, hunting Bigfoot would still not be my job. Like that's actually irrelevant. No. You asking me to do it as just a guy who owns a gun is not any stupider than asking the chief of police to go do it, because there's no chief of police that would go hunt a Bigfoot for you.
Yes.
But we're going to eventually arrive at the inciting incident of the film, because so far one thing has happened, which is that he got fired from his chief of police job. That's it. And I don't know how far we are into the film when they finally, the three teenage girls are talking about going to the park. And these are, again, members of the family. It's their three daughters, I guess.
Yeah. I thought it was triplets at first. They look really similar.
Yeah. And they like play in the park. They stop at a picnic table. They have an extremely awkward conversation, which they give them like a scripted conversation to do. When it's not necessary. You could have just let them just talk and have it be muffled off in the distance, because what they're saying is not important to the plot. It's just establishing that they are three girls that know each other. And then we hear some branches snapping, and we keep getting like POV Bigfoot shots.
Yeah,
like from the first,
like Evil Dead style.
The first Halloween movie does this, where Michael Myers, you keep seeing it. There's like a voyeuristic shot, like you see it from his POV where he's watching the girls walk and stuff like that, and you get really skeeved out. So at another spot, the girls hear like a branch snap and they run away again, like it repeats that beat. Then they stop fleeing the sounds they heard and decide to play hide and seek because they're not scared anymore. They forgot about it.
Yeah.
And they keep cutting to this shot of Bigfoot, his leering gaze from the bushes. And I feel like sometimes I'm too quick to find pedophile stuff in a movie because I think it's funny. I feel like they are playing up Bigfoot as a sexual predator. The way they keep cutting to the shot of the innocence of the little girls playing in the park, and they're too young to have any kind of thoughts. But then you cut to this predatory gaze, like staring at them from the bushes. And it's like, oh no, this is predator and prey, but not like animal predator and prey. This is, this is now I could
like
be
watching them.
That could purely be me saying that. I will admit that sometimes I read that into stories that when it's not there.
The fact that they've done like 3 beats and they keep resetting back to like, oh, okay, we're alone. Let's like have our alone time. And the Bigfoot's still there implies it's part of the narrative now. It's not like a coincidence that he's stalking them and watching them. And so now we have to ask, like, what is the Bigfoot's goal? Why isn't he eating these girls yet? It has to be Bigfoot pervert shit.
When he attacks, he grabs the girl, I guess her name is Cindy. And so we get like 2 frames of a furry costume, like grabbing her. The other 2 kids run away. We see Cindy like getting dragged off into the woods. And then one of the other girls falls and screams, and it's implied that he got her too. And then the third girl, the movie forgets about. Because she doesn't get captured by the Sasquatch, but she also doesn't run and tell the grown-ups, hey, my 2 friends got kidnapped. I guess she just had like soccer practice or something the day they shot this, and she had to, she's just not in the movie anymore.
She might just be lost in the woods. She might, unrelated to the Bigfoot attack, these girls were just lost in the woods.
They just didn't care. But from here on out, the grown-ups are going to say, we've got to go into the woods and rescue these girls that are being held by the Sasquatch. Like, why would you assume? You would assume he's one of 2 things. He has eaten the girls, or they're just lost out in the woods. The saying, no, that Sasquatch, we know what he's done. He's captured these teenage girls and he's holding them hostage. What animal does that? To what end? Do you see, like, did you see why my mind went there? Like, if this was not a Bigfoot movie, if this was just, like a guy doing that, you would immediately say, oh yeah, he's a pervert. He's a predator. Like he stalked these little girls into the woods and captured them and is now holding them somewhere. But replacing that with Bigfoot,
it implies some perversion, in the author, I would say. I think you might be onto something. I don't want to psychoanalyze the art too much, but there's some shit wrong with this lady that you can't explain away with just the God stuff. But she's also inept as a filmmaker. So we see like a montage of 2 characters out by the water in the empty streets, fading in and out as if to communicate many days have passed. Like these girls have been missing for weeks.
And we get another montage
for a little while
of Harrison like hanging around the docks and the shore again, as this is the only pastime people have in this town, is they eat at that one restaurant and they go walk along the cold gray water.
There's also like an unrelated jogger that they filmed, implying that like we're past it. We've forgotten about the girls. We're moving on with our lives. Anyway, they finally send the sheriff out. The sheriff agrees to go look for the little girls alone, because that's how you conduct a missing person search. You send one boss hog out into the woods, and he's complaining the whole time. He's like got his hat down so you can't see his face, and he's like, "Ain't seeing nothing out here, wasting my time."
Also, I should note they did not spring for a police uniform for him. He's just in a flannel, like a flannel shirt and jeans he's got a badge. But what I love is when he pulls out his gun, you think, oh, what hilarious toy prop did they get? So, oh no, it's just a Glock, because of course it is.
Of course.
That's the one thing they would have no problem getting their hands on, is just go into the closet and get their actual real gun that is not a prop gun. It does not have like the barrel full of lead or whatever. It is a straight up working handgun. It is.
That reminds me of something that happens soon, where Harrison, the former cop, goes to the gun store. Like when he finally decides to hunt the Bigfoot, he's like, oh, I better go buy a gun. But it's like,
No.
He already had a gun.
Yeah,
why are we doing this?
It's almost comical because, it's basically the sheriff's going to get eaten by the Bigfoot, and all that's going to be left of him is like they find his hat. I think
his hat and his gun are on the ground.
Yeah.
Which again, why does the Bigfoot only eat the sheriff and not the little girls?
Correct.
It's a dark question.
Because the sheriff is gone. He has not been abducted and put in the same place as the girls. The sheriff has been eaten.
Right.
The girls, which were
they
caught
never
first,
mention him again.
Because it's not a thing where, the Bigfoot ate the sheriff and he's full, so he's going to save the girls for later. No. The girls he caught first. Then he caught the sheriff, ate the sheriff. The girls continued to be back at his nest. But
unrestrained.
We see the Bigfoot run past, and it is a guy in a Party City gorilla costume. So they don't.
Yes.
Initially, they try to keep it like blurred or running, like you only see a few frames of it. Then eventually they just give up. Like, no, it's a guy. Like we're just going to have to roll with it. It's a guy in a gorilla costume. So we cut to
she's begging God for help. This is where it starts to get more Christian in the script, not just the music, because she's begging for God to keep the girls safe. Which is funny because God already sent a Bigfoot to kill the girls. Not haha funny, of course, but like.
Yeah. So the sequence, and again, it gets a little jumbled because so much of it is just cutting back and forth to montages of people eating or walking along the shore. But somewhere along the way, the sequence is, she goes to Harrison, the fired police chief, and says, hey, the sheriff has vanished and he's probably been eaten by a Bigfoot. And he refuses the call to action again for unknown reasons. And then she eventually convinces him to go help because there's two little girls missing. Mm-hmm. So he goes to a gun store. And then while he's at the gun store shopping for guns, and there's like these military drums play when he walks in, it's like to get you pumped up she goes out to the woods unarmed to go looking for the girls herself.
There's a moment you're skipping over where she goes, you won't help me? I'll do it myself.
It's
and you're
that
thinking,
scene
she's
from
going to gear
Major
up.
League where the one guy gives up his God because it won't help him hit the curveball. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
she actually says
Boo.
to God, if you won't help me, I'll do it myself. And she puts on her jacket and stomps off into the woods.
She doesn't get a knife or a gun. She just puts on a light jacket. Like, that's her Bigfoot hunting gear.
Meanwhile, Harrison, the fired police chief, is kneeling by a church. He's got his guns. He's now remembered these girls are in the woods somewhere. Every second counts. They've been kidnapped for 6 weeks. Who knows how long they've been out there?
Yeah, who knows?
And he asks God for forgiveness for what he's about to do, which is murder a Sasquatch. Which, as we know, is a sin, but he's doing it because he has to, but he's told God in advance, hey, what's about to happen here? I'm going to need you to forgive me because it ain't going to be pretty. I know this is your creation. It's about to meet another of your creations called my fists. So he loads up his shotgun, walks through the woods. The shotgun he bought for this is a pistol grip Mossberg riot gun, not a hunting shotgun. People don't know what I'm talking about. You would not hunt with such a weapon.
No, probably not.
So
he might hunt someone in Call of Duty with this weapon, but not really a Bigfoot.
He hunts very slowly. The camera gets a bunch of angles on him like he's a sexy action hero. Like you can tell his wife shot this. Yeah. It's like look at his big beefy arms. Like, yeah. He's like kind of doing these poses.
The female gaze is really horny, but the chemistry is real shitty.
So he is crouched behind a log, and she does the thing that you probably don't want to do where a guy's crouched behind a log with a shotgun. She comes up behind him and startles him. And he says, you're lucky I didn't blow your face off. And they have...
you're skipping, because he's already running and shooting. Like, he's like the mountain monsters where he gets out of his car and he's already found Bigfoot, except they don't show him. He's like, there's Bigfoot over there. Pow, pow, pow. Oh, almost got him. And then he just sits down, I guess.
Yeah.
Saving his strength. We don't know.
This is going to happen repeatedly because they're now going to have an argument where they go in circles about it's not clear what. It seems to be where he doesn't want her to help with the Bigfoot hunt.
I wrote down all this dialogue. She tells him, I can fight. And he goes, you can fight. She goes, I can help you. You can't help me. She goes, I thought you weren't coming. I came to get the kids. We have no one. Well, I'm here. I can help you. No, you can't help me. I love it because if this dialogue sounded natural to them, this couple must fucking bicker all day about everything. Like, every single thing he says is a contradiction to what she says. And a lot of it repeats.
So
some of it contradicts with no point.
We cut to one of the girls lying on the ground, the kidnapped girls, the ones that the last time we saw them, they were getting dragged into the forest by Bigfoot. And we see them lying on the ground with the Bigfoot kind of kneeling over them doing something, because they gave the direction of just, well, like, act like you're checking on your hostages. They're not restrained, because that would be ridiculous to picture a Bigfoot like tying them up. So they've just been lying on the ground of the forest for the last, I don't know, 500 hours. So the guy says, hey, we're going to find this Bigfoot. We're going to kill him, and we're going to save those girls. Again, assuming he's just, without question, that these girls are still alive, because of course they are. The Bigfoot would not have taken them to eat them. He would have taken them for a totally unspecified second reason that will never be discussed or whatever. Because again,
he does give her the shotgun.
They're not looking for the sheriff. They're not saying, hey, we're going to rescue the girls and the sheriff. They accept that the sheriff was eaten, but are sure that the girls were not.
Yeah. He hands her the shotgun. And of course, before he hands it to her, he cocks it, because which probably the fourth time it's been cocked now. He's just popping shells into the woods everywhere. Every actor that has a shotgun has to cock it. And I understand that. But you got to cut it out of the movie if it's a feature film. She says, with the shotgun, she goes, what are you going to use? He goes, I don't need anything. I might be adding too much life to that performance, but because again, this guy, he doesn't want to do this. His goddamn fucking wife dragged him to this shit.
Does not need a shotgun to take on Bigfoot.
I love it. I love it. So she has to use the bathroom.
Yeah, well,
and he says,
let's pause for a moment here, because from a screenwriting point of view, the shotgun hurts the story, because that's actually, it's like, well, do you just shoot it? So you've got to get the shotgun out. Now, the way a lot of people would choreograph it is, as soon as you find the Bigfoot, it rips the gun out of your hand. That's how Mountain Monsters does it, where Willie would have his shotgun snatched by a Bigfoot 3 or 4 times an episode. But here they're like, oh, we've got to get the shotgun out of the picture to make this, to up the danger. So how did they accomplish that, Sean?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I wrote down some bathroom dialogue, because she said she wanted to use the bathroom. And he says, the bathroom? Hunters don't use the bathroom. Hold it. That's what they do. Hold it. And so they have another argument, because she needs to go pee. But then she finally wins the argument, and she leaves the shotgun up against a log, and then walks away from the shotgun, and comes back, and he says, what'd you use for toilet paper? Because the writer of this movie is a fucking pervert. We've established that. And she says, mind your business. He says, ha ha. And then they do some walking, and he says, let me see the shotgun.
Because she visibly does not have it. She left it back there by the log. And then and they walked for a long time. Like, she came back from the bathroom without the shotgun in her hands. Right. And he does not notice this until much later. Like, oh, okay, let me see the shotgun. It's like, oh my gosh, I left it.
Oh, darn it.
And he immediately is like, well, it's okay, we don't need it. No, that's not the problem. You left a loaded and cocked shotgun in a woods where children play. We've already established this is where the local children come to play. You left it leaning against a log. The problem is not, will we need this for our Bigfoot battle? You need to circle back and go get the shotgun. You're a cop. Like, this is the kind of thing that is not wise to do.
And I think this is another sign that this is just the most bickery couple, because what was actually written into the script was, see, this is why I didn't want to bring you. He immediately went to, I told you so, not, I just bought that $500 shotgun. Also, the stuff Jason said about children in the woods.
Now, but they can't circle back and get the shotgun because every second counts, right? Like, these kids are being held hostage by a Sasquatch who is doing God knows what to them. So here's where they just sit down and kind of have a picnic. Like, they kind of just sit down and chill for a while and have a heart-to-heart.
Have a little sit.
Hang out.
She's got a new plan, though. Her plan B, now that they have no shotgun, is to command the Bigfoot in Jesus' name. And Harrison's like, that could work, because he has a theory that if God made the Bigfoot, he can control it. And that means that they could ask God to control it. It's a good theory. If he wasn't, doing God knows what to two little girls and already had eaten a sheriff. I just think that maybe God's not super involved in what this Bigfoot is up to.
Not to go off on a tangent. We have a perception of evangelical Christians in America as being very rigid and inflexible in their thinking and stringent. And like, there's some sectors that, they police what women will wear. A lot of you went to school with the Pentecostal kid where the girls wore like the long dresses, not allowed to wear pants. But you will notice that in Christian media at every level, they're allowed to just say anything. They can throw, like, you would think, for example, if you're going to make a Christian movie and get it distributed by like a Christian distributor and get it to be shown on whatever, the Bible channel or whatever deep cable thing that this ran on, whatever streaming service, that somebody would watch and say, okay, there's no biblical justification for what you're saying here. What you're saying here is literal blasphemy. Right. Like your whole theory of that you can command, one, that Sasquatch exists. Two, that because God created it and man has dominion over it, that means that any man can command any wild animal. Like, there's no biblical basis for that. That is dangerous to tell kids that, because it implies that if they were in the woods and they ran into a bear, that it's like, well, God made the bear. God gave me dominion over the bear. Therefore, I can command the bear. Like, no, that's like, they would veto this movie based on, that never happens. Yeah. You will see Christian movies, cartoons, whatever, and they just make up new theology all the time. They'll throw in aliens, the apocalypse stuff that they just invented out of it doesn't matter. They will decide that they'll have a movie about the Antichrist and they'll just declare some world figure to be the Antichrist, and it's all fine. Like, it is just a free-for-all. I find that fascinating that they're so loose with what you can claim about God and about Jesus and about how this all works. Because again, for people who are not religious, I don't know if you realize this, they believe this is all real. Like, do you understand that Jesus is not their Santa Claus? They believe he's a real person that has real rules that actually exist and that they have to live their lives by, and that you can't just make up Sasquatch lore and just say, oh yeah, no, this is in the Bible. This is how you handle a Sasquatch.
I agree that it's not super intellectually consistent or philosophically consistent. But I do think that if you met a Sasquatch and you said that you were there on behalf of God, he would listen to you. I feel like that part of the story I have no problem with.
So that discussion,
I have a real problem with the chemistry they try to show here. When they try to like make it look like they're about to kiss, I'm like, the fuck they are. They have the chemistry of like two middle schoolers at their first dance who are both starting to realize they're gay. Like picture that. That's how close this husband and wife are to fucking. That's just what it says in my notes.
And so all of this theological discussion they have while sitting by a tranquil pond and just kind of having a casual discussion and then finally he says, well, it's getting dark. We'd better go find those girls.
Better keep that damn Bigfoot.
So
they also know they skip over like his backstory, and it's a story about like an active shooter that he stopped. He stopped a school shooting team.
Okay, no. On the way to go battle the Bigfoot, they take a leisurely stroll through the woods and have a leisurely conversation where she says, "Well, is it true what they say about you that you saved a bunch of children?" And keep in mind, there's like 10 minutes left in the movie, and they're just having this well, it was a long time ago, but I went up there and they told me to wait for the SWAT team to come, but I didn't want to wait. So I rushed in. There's 2 shooters and I ran out of ammo. So I had to take the gun from one of them and apprehended the other and whatever. And then, they tell the story, and then they do kiss. Again, the children are out there being mistreated in some unspecified way by a Sasquatch. There's supposed to be a ticking clock here, and I get that they wanted to work in his backstory somehow. I get that, but it's very weird. The rhythm of it is, this was kind of the weirdest thing in the whole movie for me, because it's like, you don't have to be an expert. Okay, let me back up for a moment. If anybody out there wants to make a movie, here's what you do. Watch a movie first.
Just any
movie.
Not this one.
I'm dead serious. Get a notebook and just write down a list of the scenes in that movie. So watch whatever. Pick an action movie, something that's like in 90 minutes long, standard feature length, and just write down and just count how many scenes there are. And you'll notice certain things like, 60 minutes into the movie is when they had their biggest thing happening. And then there's the third scene from the end is the climax. Just look, count, and then say, okay, well, I'm going to write my thing. It'll just be like this. I can't afford to have a guy jump out of a helicopter, but here's where the sheriff will get kidnapped by the Bigfoot. It will be in scene number 26, because you're following the format of Blade 2 or whatever movie you chose.
It's a good choice. Great structure.
So the thing with the structure being so weird is you don't have to have gone to film school. If you got a bunch of teenage boys, they've seen a bunch of movies. They know that hey, we're every second counts. These girls are being menaced by a Sasquatch. We got to go. We're trying to find them. The clock is ticking. The audience is tense. I think there's just basic storytelling instincts that you don't have to be a filmmaker to have. I don't feel like I'm expecting too much, because even in Mountain Monsters, they know that it comes time to hunt the Bigfoot. They will try to generate excitement and tension, and they do a hilariously bad job of it, but it builds up to a thing, right? To a moment.
Yeah. He's not a natural storyteller to begin with, and it's not scripted. So he's just trying to remember details of this made up story, and it just falls apart several different times. And when he's finally done, she goes, "Wow." But she tries to say it like she's swooning, but she also kind of has the translucent skin of someone who's dying. So it sort of looks like a sick kid meeting John Cena, not like a woman falling in love. You know what I mean? And I guess I mean that in a mean way. She just looks like she hasn't showered in a few days, and she looks to be a wreck, I guess. They share a real gentle smooch while he's holding up the phone camera. It's because again, they couldn't find a single friend to come out there and film them while they recorded these lines in their backyard.
But also in the world of evangelical Christianity, are you allowed to kiss this soon after meeting a dude that...
I think you're right that there are no rules.
Because previously she was the mayor and he was the chief of police. Them having a relationship would have been kind of a scandal, right? There's conflict of interest, weird stuff there. So I guess that's why they wrote in the plot point about him getting fired. So they'll be free to pork down with each other because it now doesn't violate the city's...
Sense. Yeah.
But
anyways, chief of police for an entire Bigfoot kidnapping, which could be several hours, could be 90 days. We don't know the span of time.
So she sees footprints, and you get the Mountain Monsters moment where she sees prints and says and tell me, did I hear this wrong? I think I found its feet.
I wrote that down, and I wrote in my notes, it says, haha, what?
Instead of,
what does that mean?
Hey, I think I found prints, or I think I found tracks. I think I found its feet. And she's the director. She wrote the movie. It's not a blooper. It's, I don't know if I'm
pretty sure it was voiceover to begin with. She could have just re-recorded that.
So then we cut to the two girls who wake up lying on the ground, and they look around and say, I think we're in a nest. A Bigfoot nest.
So yeah, one girl says, what kind of nest? The monster that carried us away? Like, they're doing that Mountain Monsters thing where they won't say Bigfoot. They live in a town where the only radio station is Bigfoot all day.
But they call it a nest and not a den or anything else. So
good.
I guess we're the ones who are wrong. Big Feet canonically have nests.
They have nests.
And it's just a pile of sticks in the woods where they kidnap a couple of little girls, knock them unconscious, lay them there. And so then Harrison, they come up with a plan, and Harrison tells Claire, and I hope by now everybody knows the two names I'm using, the only two characters in the movie other than the girls. It tells her to act as bait because he's going to let Bigfoot chase her to where he's waiting so he can't ambush. So they're doing a pincer movement. The only way to hunt a Bigfoot.
Also, he saw some downed trees, and he was like, this is some classic Bigfoot sign. Like, they watched the show.
Later on, Bigfoot is going to throw a log at them. That's going to happen. And he says, one more thing. And he kisses her a second time. See, that should have been the first kiss.
Yeah, agreed.
Him saying, them about to go die. It's like, hey, you're going to chase the Bigfoot here. Don't know if we're going to make it. This could be our last. One more thing. Lean in, do the kiss. First kiss. That's, that's how you do it. But the second kiss is not who cares about that's not a moment.
It's stupid.
It's like, wow, it's their second kiss. Like, anyway. So
maybe he gave her a little tongue that time or something. It's a pretty shitty kiss. Whatever's going on in their mouths. The girls make a pretty good decision. It cuts back to the girls
who realize that no one's coming for them, because it's like, if our parents are here, or if the only adults are here, they've succumbed to their own horniness. If they're not here by now, we're on our own. It's been months.
Right.
So they just escape the nest. And one of the girls is like, I'm sure God will lead us to the right path, which, if true, then the sheriff and the chief and none of those people needed to come do this, because God will just lead them out.
God's got you. But God had a Bigfoot throw you in a fucking monster nest, dumbass.
So they stop and pray and ask to be led to the right path. And so then we cut to the adult.
There was one of the girls was bleeding, and I thought they were going to do a stigmata thing, but then the other one says, "Well, it's okay," and that drama's resolved.
Yeah, she cut her hand, and she was looking at her palm, and I thought that's what they were doing too. It's like some sort of it's like, oh my God, they're going to sacrifice this girl. She's the Christ figure in the story. No, that would have been amazing if she threw her body on in there, so the Bigfoot would be too distracted eating her, and then they could come in and. That's
a movie.
So now we then cut to the mayor the mayor is getting chased by the Bigfoot. And now the Bigfoot gorilla costume is just straight up in broad daylight chasing her through the woods. And
it's so fucking funny. And it cuts to it so unceremoniously. Just like suddenly there's a woman in the woods being chased by a Bigfoot. After these other people were stopping to pray. It's so funny.
Harrison jumps out and hits the Bigfoot with a log. And here's where you say, you know what would have been really useful right now? A shotgun. That would have been actually that would have been way better than what you're trying to do right now, because she swings herself around a tree trunk and does a gymkata thing where she does a gymnastic thing where she comes around and kicks the Bigfoot in the neck gently with her woman's foot in a tennis shoe. Which I want to note, if instead of a Sasquatch, if this was a bear, you would not expect that to take them. If it was a dog, you would not expect kick and hitting it with a log would kill it. There's almost no animal, unless it was very elderly. So they act shocked that this doesn't instantly kill the Bigfoot.
You could execute an elderly dog with this. Yes, this kid could kill an elderly dog.
So then the Bigfoot throws a log at them, which again, whether they got this from mountain monsters or it's just the only thing that occurs to you when you're like, okay, we need to film the Bigfoot doing something that won't look completely stupid. Maybe you could just chuck an object at there from off camera. Well, what do we have to work with? Here's a log. Here's a branch, the dead branch I can throw at.
It's so good too because he just catches it. He just catches the log and shoves it off of himself.
Yeah.
And then she says yes to the line of the movie.
Claire says, "I can't believe that kick didn't hurt him." And in the middle of the Bigfoot battle, Harrison says, well, "That's because you kick like a girl."
Logs are being thrown at them.
They should explore their plan. That's like, actually, if you think about it, there's almost no animal in the woods that this plan would have worked against, unless the animal's like already mostly dead. So they run away.
Yeah, they're running away. And I wrote down, hold on a second. That was a perfectly executed version of their plan. Like everything went the way they wanted it to go. And they just expected the kick to kill it.
Yes, correct. That was their plan. They thought her kick to the neck would kill the Sasquatch. So now awesome. At this point, only now Harrison reveals, "Oh yeah, I've also got a Glock."
I wrote down the dialogue here too, if you don't mind. She says, "What are we gonna do?" He says, "We're gonna make a plan." But again, their plan fucking worked. She says, "Tell me the plan," and he says, "The plan is." We're going to fight him. And I got backup to help us. And then he pulls out the gun.
Yeah.
So
now,
that's the plan. Secret gun.
Now,
it's a good plan. It works a lot.
She says, you think that little thing is going to take down a Bigfoot? And it's like, one, it will do a lot more than your stupid size 6
stupid kick
woman's
dumb shit
shoe to his neck. Yeah. I think 16 rounds of hollow points would probably hurt it a lot. It would do more than anything. It'd be anything else we've got on us. We're going to hit it with a log again, or we could go back and get the shotgun.
That'd be nice too. Do you know any idiots who left that somewhere lying around? Did you write down what he said to that line?
Obviously, I wrote
it down.
You think that? Do you want to say it?
Good,
you say it.
Let's do a little. We could do a little play. Do you want to be Claire or Harrison?
You think that little thing is going to take down a Bigfoot?
It's the man behind the gun that matters.
You're better off doing it with your bare hands. I think I'm putting too much inflection on the line.
Yeah, you have way too much life in that. You need to think like a terminal patient. I didn't write down what he said after that. It was probably some bickery thing.
Well, no, he comes around to...
So tired of your fucking harping. When are we going to stop filming, wife?
He gets around to some Bible stuff and he says, well, the Bible tells us 365 times not to fear.
Not to fear. Yes.
Not true.
And we're not going to start doing it.
The Bible says it like 71 times. I apparently spent more time in Sunday school than you did. Anyways, so the new plan
Maybe he has a calendar of Bible fear quotes, and that's why he thought.
The new plan is she's going to go sit down while he hunts the Bigfoot with his Glock. She says she fell and injured her hand, too?
Yes.
It repeats the exact beat with the little girls from 2 minutes ago?
Yes. Because his line to her hurt hand is, "You're okay. It's going to be okay." It's almost identical to the other scene. So I don't know if those girls were just doing the wrong page of the script or if the adults were, but like something weird is happening.
Yeah, they repeated that didn't occur to me until just now. They shot the same page of the script and left it all in the final edit.
Yeah. Did you write down the tough line where she says, "I'm not as tough as you"? Did you write his response to that? He said, "It's not your job to be tough. It's my job to be tough." I thought, You don't find writing like that anywhere else. It's so good.
So now there's a few minutes left. The girls are running through the woods. They're hunting the Bigfoot with the Glock. Every second counts. So now it's time to take another leisurely walk. And she asks him what he did in the military. And he, as any war veteran would say, says, well, I did go to war a few times.
Few times.
Doesn't specify a war or what unit he was with.
Doesn't say where he was deployed or I think he's got an airborne hat on. So he says, I was in the airborne. And then he says, mostly infantry, which is just, what? Just, I was a tank commander in the paratroopers.
She says, is it hard for you to talk about? He says, no.
Nah. He says he doesn't talk about his past right after he talks about his past.
Yeah. Says he's got a shoebox.
I don't know. It's
full of medals under his bed. Full of medals.
Yeah. Full of medals. So many attaboys. He goes to the potty now, and then she taunts him to not forget his gun. Like, this woman who put their lives in terrible danger and the lives of anyone in these woods in danger by leaving the shotgun behind. He says to her, I don't forget my gun. Only beautiful women do. It's the least smooth shit that's ever been said. What does that mean? That's like, I can see trying to slip it in like, hey, you're a beautiful woman. Slip that in somewhere, but this is not the place.
It also is nonsensical. Only beautiful women leave their guns abandoned. It's like, well, no, it's drunk cops do it sometimes, and hillbillies do it, and
beautiful drunk cops.
Yeah, all sorts of idiots do it. This is America. Yeah. People leave loaded guns behind for children to find all the time. You do not have to be a beautiful woman to do it. But anyway,
it drops the panties right off of her. She loves it. And I want to remind everyone that this woman looks very sick. So he might mean only beautiful women do, in the way like you look great for someone dying any second. Like what a beauty.
But yes, they are stopping for a bathroom break with like 5 minutes left in the film. He's like, no, sorry, gotta go drain the lizard. He comes back from using the bathroom, and they're like, okay, now it's time to set up the trap again. So she runs away, and he charges in and shoots at the Bigfoot and gets into a fist fight with the Bigfoot. They did struggle to film this. I feel like it keeps like fading to black because they weren't sure how to edit.
Did you see who played the Bigfoot in the credits?
No.
It was Harrison. This is this is a man fighting himself in a Bigfoot costume.
That is the best symbolism for the life of a man under Christ, where you are at war with the animal side of yourself.
Yes.
What a great twist that would have been to find out this is a werewolf situation where he all along was transforming into a Sasquatch and kidnapping children and eating sheriffs. Like if he coughed up the sheriff's hat that fell out onto the ground. But that's not what they're implying. He punches.
No, don't know anyone who would do a favor for them.
He punches the Bigfoot a whole bunch of times. It's very weird how it's shot because it's never clear where they are in relation to each other. Sometimes they seem to be like 100 feet away from each other. Sometimes they're punching each other. She will like run a long distance and like kick the Bigfoot in the leg to try to help him out. But then suddenly the Bigfoot will be like a long way away. And then there's a moment where he falls down and the Bigfoot like hits him with a rock, and it's implied that Harrison is dead.
Yep. It's over. 59 minutes, movie's over.
Then she has to like run to his rescue, but she's coming from like a long distance away, even though she just kicked it.
I wrote down her line. She says, hey, Bigfoot, leave him alone. And then she kicks him. This is all the time he needed to get up. She jumps on its back. She like piggyback rides on the Bigfoot. While she casually says in voiceover, I need you to get up now, Harrison. And the Bigfoot at this point has picked the woman up and is just like bare hand strangling her. And Harrison says, "Put her down."
And
Again, it's him talking to himself in a Bigfoot costume.
And he gets up, and they keep inserting this shot where it's like the most like Bollywood thing ever, where he like hit like a tree and the tree falls over.
Yes.
They've done like an effect where they've like held, not an effect, like somebody just held a log up and he punched it and then they just let it fall over. So it looked like he was continually really just punching trees over in the woods. And they keep inserting that in the fight. And it's very...
And it's also not like a fight like you're picturing in a movie. It's like a cardio kickboxing fight. Like he's got his fists up like he's in a regular fight and he's just throwing like punches. It's like a 3-round boxing match in the woods with Bigfoot. He does finally knock Bigfoot out with punches. And the girls run up. The girls are like, "We've escaped the Bigfoot nest and we're lured by the sounds of the Bigfoot fist fight. Boss Hogg's not there. The sheriff is dead." And then Bigfoot, like Undertaker style, like shoots up from the knockout as if like, "Oh no, Bigfoot's still alive. The human punches didn't kill him."
And then it cuts to...
unfortunately.
It cuts to Harrison waking up. And here in the moment, I thought, oh, he was dreaming about the Bigfoot jumping up awake. In reality, like that's just a dream. In reality, he punched the Bigfoot to death with his bare fists. And then Claire is sitting across from him reading the Bible and starts talking about how, like, "Hey, I think all of these violent movies you've been watching, I think it's really affecting you." And he's like, "Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's time to throw away these violent films and monster movies." So the entire movie was a dream, because they're going to then cut to like them as a real life family, because again, these 3 girls in the movie are not their daughters. In the movie, they're just girls from the town. In real life, that's their family. So they, as a family, him married to this woman who he, in his dream, his real life wife was just the mayor of the town. And so the whole movie was a dream, and it's not clear what the reality is. Like, is he a cop in reality? Is he the actual chief of police? Or was he dreaming that he was the chief of police who lost his job in his dream? And he dreamed that his real life wife is like his wife turned up in his dream as the mayor. Then in the dream, they fell in love. And he
fell in love right before a Bigfoot fist fight.
And then they killed the Bigfoot together and then rescued their own children who in his dream were abducted by a Bigfoot. And then one of them left his dream and just never reappeared.
They rescued 2 of their 3 children. Their good friend, the sheriff, died, whoever that was. But the lesson is we shouldn't have made it and you shouldn't have watched it.
But he says, like...
That's the moral.
They have this conversation where she's like, I think you got addicted to these movies as a way to cope with all the stress of being a soldier and a police officer. Right. And he's like, "Yeah, I think you're right. But I think in the end, those movies did more harm than good. Maybe I'll be less irritable and negative if I stop watching so many violent movies. I just want to be a better husband and father and Christian." And so they cut to a montage of all of them as a family going for a walk in the woods and along that shore while another Christian rock song plays. And yes, I was listening for something that could rhyme with, and then I punched the Sasquatch to death. Struggled to come up with phrasing that could, but I thought, well, maybe they'll come through. And of all the ways that could end, because again, this is her, breaking the fourth wall and saying, "Hey, don't go watch those garbage Hollywood movies. Watch pure, clean movies like the one I just made for you here, where a man and a wife went out into the woods and punched a Sasquatch to death with our bare hands and walked away having left a loaded Mossberg 12 gauge riot gun with 6 double-aught buckshot shells fully loaded with a round racked into the chamber, probably the safety off for some other kids to find.
And
this
so
is
many
what you should
implied
be.
Bigfoot sex crimes. Let's not leave out the Bigfoot sex crimes we very heavily implied in the narrative.
And I don't want to state the obvious, but you made a violent movie. What's the difference? Is it what do you consider to be sinful? It's like you're saying, hey, this is what action monster movies should look like if you keep God's word in mind when making it. Is it just that you stopped every half an hour to mention a Bible verse? Is that the only thing that makes it okay?
I think it's at the end you ask for forgiveness. You're like, we shouldn't have done that. And I think that's really like the Christian philosophy when that's the appeal of it, right?
I just love
maybe that's the most Christian thing of all.
I would love if at the end of the movie, The Raid Redemption, the guy wakes up in bed and his wife's like, did you have that dream again where you beat 250 men to death to escape a tower full of gangsters? Like, yeah. That one guy was in it with the long hair. I had to beat him to death and slice his throat open with a fluorescent tube. And I've been watching too many movies. I'm having dreams like this. It's like, all right.
Raid's a Christian movie now.
Yeah. Okay. This is now that you can now watch this in church because we told you that. I don't know. So, I have so many questions.
Curious at the end of this movie, right? You shouldn't ever do that. It was all a dream. That's terrible. I think anyone, even casually interested in screenwriting, would tell you that. But this ending is so inconceivably bad, not just because it cuts to like a bunch of bloopers. And I think they adopted the girls, maybe. Like there's a whole new story elements post bloopers.
Stop. I stopped watching when they walked off. Is there a blooper reel at the end of this film?
There's a blooper reel that turns into a B-roll. It's like there's some flubbed lines, and then all of a sudden it's just like background stuff. And then there's a story element of how they adopted the girls after they rescued them from Bigfoot. So I think they went back into the dream somehow, or this was just a scene they cut. And it makes me so mad because
oh my God, I'm so sorry. We have to re-record the podcast. I have to go
the whole episode.
I did not, because I was done with this film. I know we're having fun discussing it. This is kind of like the Star Wars Christmas special where you'll see tons of people do YouTube videos and podcasts about it. People are like, oh, I bet it's so funny. And then you actually watch it and it's like, oh, this is torture. This isn't fun. This is long and tedious and awful. And we are trying to make this entertaining. The actual experience of watching this, it's an hour and 5 minutes.
It's brutal.
And it is so much just long silences. Something we didn't convey is that when they do the dialogue scenes, they do that thing where not even like amateur filmmakers do, where there's long pauses between each line, almost like a video game cutscene where you're having to choose like your dialogue option.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I knew I shouldn't have brought you along. Don't say that. I have a right to be here. It's my job to find the girls. It's my job to be tough.
I can help find the girls.
And it is so hard to listen to. So when they did the "It's All a Dream" reveal, and then they all went for a walk out in the woods, I turned it off. I did not know there was
just
a Cannonball
20 more
Run
seconds
style
of like
blooper reel,
earth-shaking reveals that but again, I think the explanation is all the footage they cut, which was only about 20 seconds, they just shoved it in there. So it's so it wasn't post-dream real world. It was just like old scenes that didn't make the cut.
So I have many, many questions that I know you don't have the answers to because no one does, which is how much money does she get paid? Because if a distribution company, like they bought this, they paid for it, because
Right.
they bought the rights to it. It's not millions of dollars, but for example, some like Christian network had one of their other films uploaded, a comedy called, I think, Hee Haw Farm, about
That sounds good.
one of their daughters goes to visit a farm full of wacky characters and whatever. And it had like 150,000 views on YouTube. And on every one of their YouTube uploads, on their own channel, on other channels, they have the comments turned off. Because they do not like the people coming in and saying, hey, this has a 1.6 on IMDb for a reason. But if you go scroll through their many credits, there is an alien movie. There is a haunted house movie. There is all of these like out there concept shows that they don't have the budget to shoot. They have like one that's like something, stealing Christmas or something, where it is just a family doing a Christmas adventure, which is probably the most sensible thing they could do. But no, she's really big on the cryptids and all of that. For some reason, seems to think they have a place in the theology. And as far as I can tell, they never convince anybody else to be in their movies other than the family who they can force to be in the movie. Not a single neighbor, that anyone that just for fun would want to come just be in the movie for free.
But
like, I get that they can't pay actors, but if you ask a random person, hey, do you want to come this Saturday? We're shooting a movie. You want to come be an extra in a movie? Lots of people would say, yeah, that'd be fun.
I thought the whole point of church was that there's like 50, 60 people that are like kind of your friends, whether they like it or not. You know what I mean? Like, you have a community. And you go to church and you just say like, hey, here's the Sunday announcements. Ashley's filming another goddamn fucking stupid movie. If anyone wants to come be a sheriff, punch will be provided.
I can see if the one she did about Christmas or the one she did about whatever had a bunch of other people in it, and then those people were mysteriously absent in the Bigfoot movie. But honestly,
Sure.
In my experience, I don't think they would have shied away from. It's like, no, it's fun. You've seen, you go on YouTube, you can see it, like the Christmas pageants that the mega churches put on, and they've got like Iron Man in them. They got like members of the Adventures, and they've got songs.
I love those.
Like they're very free to just insert whatever other pop culture thing. So even the Bigfoot movie, and if this family's out there listening to this podcast, I realize we've accused you of several things. We don't know you. I just think it's weird that nobody in your church or your neighborhood or in your extended family, not a single one, would be in your movie, even in a non-speaking role, which would have made the film seem more alive and populated. Just to be walking along the beach, so it's not just these two people. It almost comes across like a post-apocalypse where they're the last two survivors.
I think art communicates a lot. So I know them. I know they live in a shitty town. I know they can't fuck. I know they hate each other. It's plainly obvious they can't make a movie. They've got a Bigfoot kid fetish. For the record, let it be legally binding. I am accusing you of Bigfoot and pedophilia crimes. Jamie, we can cut all this.
So anyway, a lot of the listeners are asking, should I go watch this movie? And I'm going to be frank, I do not remember the name of this movie. It is called
The Badge, the Bigfoot, and the Bible.
In that order. Because the three words I can never
so.
remember. If you called it the Bigfoot, the Bible, and the Badge, that sounds just as right to me.
Right. Buckaroo Banzai across the Bigfoot Badge Bible.
Is this movie worth watching? I think you can watch it on YouTube for free. And I would say no,
Probably.
It's not worth that.
I think people might be fascinated with how bad it is. I tried several times to explain, like, no, it's far worse than I would be able to explain. I'd like some people I'd like everyone to just try it, just to be like, there's no way.
I think there's times when we were trying to explain what happened in order, and you and I got mixed up. Like, you'd be like, no, before that. If you watch it, you'll see why. Because they will be like conversation in a coffee house. Now montage of them walking along the shore, but now they're back in the coffee house. It's like, is it Is
Yeah,
it
it's
the
meaningless.
next meal? Are they now back for dinner and they were there for lunch before, or is this the next day? Or and then it's like now they're in the woods, but now they're walking along the shore again. Like stuff is placed out of order, and there's no sense of how much time has passed, any of that. And I know that some of that stuff is difficult to keep track of in editing, but I don't know. I think a random group of people would have done a better job. And again, if this was something some people just uploaded to their YouTube channel, some stuff they shot with their kids play acting, you would not, hold it up to make fun of. Again,
Sure.
This got a distributor. They were paid money, and they continue to do this as a business. That they could not have cranked out 50 of these things otherwise.
They have a majestic, like, CGI production company logo, which is the first thing you make when you make shitty movies, shitty home videos, is the Ashley Wright Production Studios.
Yeah, and then there's a logo for a distributor that is an actual worldwide distributor. It's a real distributor of they just have a giant list of direct-to-video stuff and direct-to-streaming stuff that they do. They pay for it, and it gets dumped to whatever. This movie is probably on Amazon Prime or whatever. You can probably find it on all of those services. So go watch all of their films, all 52 things she's made. I could not detect, because we mentioned this was like the second one she made. In the 50th one, it looks exactly like this.
Exactly
in terms
the same.
of they've not developed editing skills. It's the exact same weird camera angles, the exact same long pauses between dialogue. I don't see where she has
They
sharpened
clearly
her
think
technique.
God will just forgive them.
Because you have to be a Bigfoot teacher, you have to open up your mouth. You have to be a Bigfoot teacher. All your friends were so knocked out. You had to have the last word last night. You know what everything's about. You had to have the white hot spotlight. You had to be a Bigfoot last night. Whoa, whoa.